Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz violinist Matthieu Saglio. We caught up with him from his home base in Spain during April 2020, during the beginnings of the coronavirus lockdown. He's originally from France, and he opened up about his latest 2020 CD, El Camino de los Vientos, along with his history, what has been going on lately, and the hopeful future. Over the years, he has been in so many projects ranging from classical to improvised music. He's got great stories. Enjoy. Well, I've been trying to really reach out to musicians from all over the globe to talk about jazz, to have a little bit of time to kind of escape the reality of our lives. So thank you for taking a minute out.
Okay.
I appreciate it. So let's talk about your latest album, El Camino de los Vientos, and talk to me a little bit about this project.
Well, it's for me it's a very very special project because it's like a point of my career or my way for the last 2 decades as a musician, and in this album there is a mix between there is always my cello as a central point, but there is some great artists, great musicians I have been listening to for a long time. Some of them I have been listening for 20 years or something like that, and I was dreaming to perform with them. It was very crazy to imagine that. And some of other artists on this album are great friends and collaborators from other projects I have been working with also. And there is also a special point with my family, because there is one of my brother singing in one song, and another song, my 3 sons, little sons, singing vocals in one track. So it was a very special point also.
So what is it like to have music out during this time of quarantine and coronavirus? I mean, how does it feel? Because you obviously can't perform live, but you have the chance to let people have that time to get your music and download it and listen to it.
Actually, it's a very special point because I'm still waiting for the release, really, because the official release of the complete album is on April 24. And I'm waiting for the reaction of the people. But now they already released 2 singles, and the first single they released it just a little bit more than 1 month ago, and it is reaching just today, just right now, it's reaching 100,000 streams in Spotify. It's very crazy. Wow. And I'm very happy of that. And I'm crossing finger because I hope perhaps I will have a good surprise, because really it's a very bad time, very bad period, and looking for good news.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about growing up in Spain and how you got involved with jazz. How did all that happen for you?
No, I didn't grow up here because I'm French. I'm native from France, and I came to Spain 20 years ago because I married with my wife. She's Spanish, and I'm living in Valencia since 2000.
What jazz musicians were you listening to that got you really hooked on jazz?
I used to listen a lot of kinds of music, jazz, world music also a lot, some traditional music, some electro. There is a lot of artists, and I think a lot of time in my way of playing the cello, I'm inspired by a lot of artists of other kind of instruments, because the cello is not very often playing jazz, and it's great because it's like all is possible to do with it, and there is there is a lot of musicians I love. who are playing other kind of instruments, and a lot of time my way of playing the cello is inspired by ours.
Were you always going to be a musician, or did you have other dreams growing up?
No, when I was a student, I studied agronomic engineering,
Nice.
but always studying also the cello in a classic way, and when I finished my studies, I decided to dedicate myself only to the cello, and it was the beginning of the adventure.
Right on. So, talk to me about your career. How did things transition from France to Spain to where you're at today?
Well, when I arrived to Valencia in Spain, I first collaborated recreated my first flamenco jazz project. It was Jerez, Texas, with flamenco guitar and drums, and we have been working with this project since then, or it's like pretty 20 years together, and touring a lot, recording several albums. And it was the beginning for me in a professional way of playing. And after, I have been involved in a lot of projects in world music or jazz music. The last years, I have been working very great with Ness. It was a trio with a singer, a French Algerian singer and cellist also, and a percussionist. And we have been touring a lot, and the first album was released also by ACT. And now it's a new adventure with my new project. El Camino de los Vientos is the way of the winds.
What was one of the first live shows that you ever saw that made you think that you wanted to be a musician?
Wow. I never thought about that. I don't know. Because I studied the cello when I began when I was 7 years old. So I was very young. But at the beginning, I never thought that I would be a professional musician. I think the change was when I arrived to Spain and I began to work with my colleagues from Jerez, Texas. And it was like, wow, I have to decide because really I would like to be a musician. It would be great.
During this time of quarantine, the whole world's going through this. It's not just, it's not just one part of the world, it's the entire globe. And jazz and all live music has been silenced. So my question to you is this: when we do get back to the point where we start making music and doing it live, what do you hope we realize about music when we come back? How do you hope that we've changed?
I think really the people in general, all the people are realizing perhaps the importance of culture in this time, because all the people is waiting at home. A lot of people is waiting at home without work and a lot of time to spend. And really, if they try to imagine their life now without a book, without music, without cinema or something, it's crazy. It's very crazy. So I hope the people will realize the so important that music is so important in their life and culture in general.
What do you like best about being a musician?
Normally, the best thing, probably traveling. I love so much this work because of the traveling and all the people we can meet, all the places, venues, cities, countries we can visit. It's a very important part of the job, and especially now as we are everything is stopped and we have to wait at home. I would like to come back to tour urgently.
Right on. My final question is this: what can the fans do to support musicians now that it's a pretty tough time? A lot of musicians are out of work and things aren't happening. What can fans do to support musicians right now?
Yeah, right now is very difficult because we can't do any concerts, normal concerts, so the people can't support us going to concerts. But it's very important for me to tell the people that they can support us listening to the music, buying CDs or buying on digital way. But it's important to validate that point, because the people have to know that we have to work, and we have to be alive, and we have to continue with this work. So it's important to have this support.
Hey man, thank you for taking a minute out to talk about your music and what's going on in the world. This is a very unique time that no one has ever seen, so I appreciate you opening up.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was very cool to speak with you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in France, Spain, America, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Matthieu for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.